So today, the ins and outs of physical fitness when you're super crazy busy. So I've got this hike that I like to do. It's one of my benchmarks for fitness. It's called the Grouse Grind. It's about roughly an hour hike straight uphill, 800-meter climb. And although I was going fairly hard, I was going much slower than I normally do. Compared to a couple of months ago when I was doing it a whole lot in preparation for the Winter Death March 2016, and compared to other times when I've been doing it a whole lot more, it took probably half an hour longer than it would have normally taken. Now, of course there was deep snow, of course I had heavy boots, I had crampons, I had gaiters. These things add up, these things slow you down. But the main thing is that my level of fitness for that specific activity had gone down. In part because I've been doing more rolling. If you do more of one thing, you're going to do less of other things. It's hard to be at your maximum cardio, at your maximum strength, at your maximum jiu-jitsu ability, and if you play tennis, hard to be at your maximum tennis ability all at the same time. You have to pick and choose, you have to prioritize. You can only do certain things. You can only peak in certain things at a certain time. Let's get even more specific. Let's talk about when you're super busy. Now, I've got a couple of websites, work in the fire department, have a couple of kids, I try and do jiu-jitsu. I'm crazy busy. But at the same time, I think fitness is incredibly important. In many ways, fitness is actually more important than self-defense skills and martial arts skills, and here's why. Number one, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, it doesn't matter what skills you have. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, said Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get tired, said my friend Bernardo Faria. Everyone has a plan until they get tired. If your fitness level sucks, doesn't matter what martial arts skills you have. Maybe you had to run after a guy to catch him, he's running away with your kid. Maybe you had to run away from some guy and he still caught up to you. Now you have to fight. Maybe you fought one guy and your arms feel like they're about to fall off because they're so tired. Well, how are you going to fight the second guy if your arms are just complete jello arms? This is a serious problem. This is why conditioning is important. Even more fundamentally, the odds of having to defend yourself in a dragged down, knockdown, eye-gouging, carotid-biting fight in your life are fairly small. Thankfully, we don't live in ultra-violent times. We're not living in the Wild West. We're not living in the Pakistani tribal areas. We're living in North America or in Europe, and things are fairly civilized unless you're going and getting completely blind drunk every Friday and Saturday night, in which case your odds of getting in a real fight are higher, and we should have a separate conversation about not drinking so much. But the odds of you being killed by an attacker in this society are pretty small. The odds of you dying from a preventable illness, basically a cardiovascular illness like heart attack, stroke, and diabetes to some extent, because that's related to exercise or lack thereof, are much, much higher. So why are you spending all this time working on defending yourself against 4 attackers? Why are you spending your time defending yourself against stick attacks and knife attacks and on the ground and standing, if the real enemy is within you, if the real enemy is your heart that's gradually crudding up with clots and all kinds of gunk because you're not actually working it. So for 2 reasons, fitness is actually more important for self-defense than the martial art that you practice. Now the thing about health and fitness, it's like a credit card. Let's say you're at 7 out of 10 for fitness. You're doing all right. You can run, you can lift, your blood pressure is low, your heart rate's low, you're not carrying a lot of extra weight, and things are half decent. You could be better, but you could be a lot worse. Now things get super busy at work, or you're studying, for your comprehensive exams at university or something. And you've got to put the training, the conditioning, the jiu-jitsu, the martial art on the back burner. Well, you can do that for a while. You can withdraw money from that credit card. You're going to start drawing a balance. Say you had a balance of $0, and now, after a month, you're down to $500 because you're living off the credit card. You started at 7 health, and now you're down to 5 health because there's a residual period. You don't get fat and out of shape all at once. But now 2 months go by. Now you've got $1,000 or $2,000 on that credit card. 3 months go by. 4 months go by. Eventually, you're going to max out that credit card. Living off of your credit card is not a viable option for living your life. Keeping on drawing down on your health and fitness is not a viable option for living your life either. So of course, if you're going through a tough time, you've got a sick kid, you've got to spend a ton of time at the hospital, you're not going to be at the gym. That's okay. I am officially giving you permission that if you've got a sick kid, you can put training on the back burner and focus on your kid. But you can't keep doing that forever. You're going to draw that credit card way down. At a certain point, you need to start putting money back against the credit card. You need to start building up your health. And here's where one of the big fallacies is. People think that if, say their goal is to be 10 out of 10 in fitness, they want whatever that means for you. Maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to be able to bench 400 pounds, maybe you want to go 5-minute hard rounds of sparring without feeling tired. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. That's your 10 out of 10. So now they can't train at all. And they're like, oh man, I can't train. And they go down. They were at 7, now they're 6, now they're 5, now they're 4, now they're 3. They're like, oh, I'm so far from my goal. I'm not even going to try. And they go 2, 1, 0. And now they're really in trouble. It's a lot more work to get back into shape from 0 than it would have been if they'd gone down from 7 to 5 or from 7 to 4, from 7 to 3, but done something to keep some kind of level of fitness up. It keeps them within striking distance of their previous level. It keeps them within striking distance of their goals. Starting from 0 is really difficult. Don't start from 0. Keep on working as much as you can. Now that might just mean taking the stairs. If you work on the 10th story, if you never take the elevator and you always take the stairs, that's better than nothing. Something is better than nothing. So let's talk about some of the very concrete things that you can do to have something rather than nothing. Here's what I did when my kids were young. I went out and bought a baby jogger. You know those modified baby stroller things that got one wheel way in the front and you can run with them? Mine was really expensive. It was like $450 before tax. By the time I added on a few accessories, a rain cover, I was north of $500. And you know what? It was the best $500 that I ever spent. I probably could have gotten a lot cheaper on Craigslist, but I wanted it right then because I was sick and tired of getting out of shape as I had young kids in the house. So my default workout, I probably did this 3 times a week. Let's go for about a 20-25 minute run. I'd run out in the dark. It would always be in the dark. It would always have a kid in the baby jogger. I'd typically be shoving Cheerios into his mouth because he wouldn't eat any other time except when he was actually restrained and strapped down. Then he would, happily sit and throw Cheerios in his mouth. I'd do about a 25-minute run. During the run, I would stop twice. I'd stop at a baseball diamond where there was a metal bar and a bench. I would do 1 set of push-ups to failure on the bench, basically working my pushing muscles, and I'd do 1 set of pull-ups to failure on a bar that was hanging out there. Then I'd run some more, I'd run back, I'd stop, 1 set of push-ups, 1 set of pull-ups, run home. The whole thing would take about 25-30 minutes, and I swear to God, that one workout stopped me from becoming completely out of shape during that long and difficult period of having small kids in the house. So maybe your magic formula is different. I'm just saying what worked for me. High intensity cardio is pretty good. You don't have to do a lot of it, and if you go really hard, as long as you don't kill yourself, if you go really hard and don't have a heart attack, it's going to keep your fitness level fairly high. So we're talking things like Tabata intervals, where you're going like crazy on the bike, or like crazy on the stair climber, or like crazy on the treadmill for 20 seconds, off for 10 seconds. Really hard for 20 seconds, off for 10 seconds. Really hard for 20 seconds, off for 10 seconds. If you do that for 8 to 12 reps, you really haven't spent that much time. Add a little warm-up in, add a little cool-down in, and you're in and out of the gym in less than half an hour, and you will have done work. Tabatas are funny because for the first couple, you're like, man, did I set this hard enough? I think this is going to be easy. I'm going to breeze through this. And by interval 4 or 5, you're going, holy shit, I think I'm going to die. So it's funny, for me anyway, at about interval 3, 4, 5, there's a switch and you start thinking like, I have made a big mistake by doing this today. And that's perfect. And you know what? If you're running on the treadmill doing your Tabatas, say you can do Tabatas with other things, you're running on the treadmill and you're not going as fast as you used to, it doesn't matter. This is a relative effort. If you're giving it a 9 out of 10, if you're giving it a 10 out of 10, if you can barely breathe by your 8th set or by your 12th set, that's a good thing. Doesn't matter how fast you're going, doesn't matter how inclined it was. Don't care about all those CrossFit guys doing Tabatas at crazy inclines. You're just trying to not go, you're trying not to go to 0. Another great option for exercise when you don't have a lot of time, kettlebell swings. Unlike dumbbells and barbells where you need benches and cages and lots of weights and collars and stuff, a kettlebell, you can get by with 1 or 2 weights. You know, you get a 24 kilogram kettlebell for a guy or a 20-pound kilogram kettlebell for a woman if you're in half decent shape. That's a really good start. And the basic kettlebell swing is a really good exercise. It's almost a whole body exercise. Some is better than none. It hits the cardio a little bit, it hits your back a little bit, it hits that extending, bridging motion that's so important in martial arts, works your grip. And if you do high numbers, if you do something like 50, 60, 70, 80 in a row, doesn't take very long. It takes less than 4 or 5 minutes. And you will have gotten a really good workout. Some is better than none. Finally, if you want some other ideas, not my ideas, but John Happelman's ideas on short, condensed workouts, go to grapplearts.com and search for 11 short MMA conditioning workouts. Basically, the idea is that the average length of these workouts is less than 11 minutes. He's a really good mixed martial arts trainer. Chuck Liddell is one of his students. So if it's good enough for him, if it's good enough for Chuck Liddell, it'll be good enough for you when you're super busy at the office. In addition to that, generally lead an active lifestyle. If you can walk rather than take a bus, if you can take the stairs rather than taking an escalator, if you can take the stairs rather than take an elevator, if you can ride your bike to work, if you can somehow incorporate some physical conditioning into your day-to-day routine, you'll be so much better off when you finally have time to get back to a more concerted, more time-intensive type of training. And of course, the other thing that goes with this is watch your food. Just because you can't train as much, it's very, very common for people to get a little bit depressed. And as they get depressed, they start eating more or drinking more. As they eat or drink more, they get fatter, which moves them down the fitness thing. Maybe they go from 7 to 5 because they're not training, but then from 5 to 3 because they're stuffing their face because they're not training. So really, really, really watch your food, your diet, and especially your alcohol consumption. Just because you can't train does not mean that you have to stuff your face. Just because you can't train doesn't mean that you can't be careful about what you eat. Just because the boss has sent you on a super long road trip and you have to go tour 10 cities in the next month selling your grapple grommet or whatever the hell it is that you sell, doesn't mean that you can't order, eggs and no home fries for breakfast. Doesn't mean you can't have a big giant salad for lunch. Doesn't mean that you have to have the giant plate of nachos at the diner in the evenings. Most places these days have got some kind of heart-healthy option, something that's not loaded with calories. Stay out of the Cheesecake Factory. Go eat dinner at Whole Foods. If you do a little bit of exercise and you watch your food, you'll be within striking distance of getting back to where you were. And that's where you want to be when you're super busy. Don't go all the way down to 0. Some is better than none, always.